Happy 4th of July, a 4-game sweep on the road by the Miami Marlins, taking down the Washington Nationals. We're going to dig into all of that and all of the UK-friendly starts too on today's Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, greetings from England. Happy 4th of July to those over in the US. It's an interesting day for us and our US-UK history. Nevertheless, happy 4th of July, guys. Hope everyone is having a great day. No doubt I've been watching Terry reversing his wheelchair, his electronic wheelchair, multiple times on Twitter. That meme just gets me every time, no doubt about it. So it's Monday edition, guys, of Locked On Marlins, and welcome to the show. This is post-game, so we're recording this post-game. And for those of you thinking, Pete, you're not sounding your usual self, that's fair to say. I've been struggling since Thursday. I've been pretty much man down since Thursday. Managed to sneak out on Saturday, but pretty much I've been in bed since. I've got this kind of virus or something. My eyes are bloodshot. I basically, just if you think of Diego, for those that aren't watching, if you think of Diego Maradona in USA, 94, USA 94, run into the camera. Those are my eyes right now. The reason they're like that is completely different, but that's the effect I've got going. So anyway, guys, to help me get through this, and it does feel a little bit like that today, Shaun Barrett, the UK GOAT, is joining me. It's Monday. Shaun Barrett hops on, of course. Shaun, you've also been struggling as well. How you doing, brother?
I'm a little banged up as well. Yeah, day to day for me. But yeah, Marlins sweep. That's always something that can help improve your mood. That's for sure.
Really was, and some fun games. It's been fun to be a Marlins fan the last 5-6 days. They've pieced a winning streak together. I've got to be honest. I'll get your take as well now. I wasn't that hopeful at the start of today's game. It was, if you can write down a lineup, an 11 a.m. road game lineup for any team using any players, this perhaps would have been the one that you'd have landed on. And Braxton Garrett going as well. So I was not that hopeful. There was similar vibes to a few weeks ago against the Mets that the Marlins ended up walking off to. Which of those lineups, Shaun, was better in your opinion they threw out there?
Well, I mean, the lineup today was probably one of the lighter lineups I've seen in a long time. It reminded me of a lineup from a 90-100 loss season in September. It really was sort of pieced together. But got the win, got the series sweep. It's those things you can always whinge about and complain about at the time, but ultimately it's about getting the results.
Yeah, for sure. Before we go any further, guys, a reminder this episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline, as you covered this season, more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. More about those guys later on. I'm with you. It was one of those games that, yes, here in Donny pre-game anyway, it felt like it was a bit of a white flag game. He was like, do you know what? Couple of guys on rest, couple of guys being worked back. Do you know what? We're just going to just lump it all into one game, an 11 a.m. start, and just see what happens. Braxton Garrett had to pitch well for the Marlins to be competitive in this game because it was a light lineup. When you look into the lineup and Jacob Stallings is DHing, there's been no worse DH offensively, I'm sure, or by baseball savant metrics anyway, ever probably in the history of baseball, because Stallings has been absolutely putrid with the bat this year, no doubt. And actually, it didn't get any better. A couple of loud flyouts, but nevertheless, Stallings was in there, Fortes in the 5-hole, De La Cruz in the cleanup spot, and then Billy Hamilton, of course, in the 9-hole. The manufactured runs, though, did come via the bottom of the lineup. And Luke Williams drops the bunt. Tip my cap to Alex Contreras, if you're listening, brother. Dropped the bunt, got it done. Billy Hamilton came in. First sack bunt of the year for the Fish on the 4th of July, mate. I mean, next thing is they've got one out, a runner on second, and, looking to do some damage there. So, they found a way to get it done, right? But, Billy Hamilton is starting for the Fish now, as is Luke Williams, as is Jacob Stallings DH. Like, the roster construction is very interesting right now, and I was very surprised about the Billy Hamilton call up. I know we haven't spoken on air about that. What would you take about the approach of Billy Hamilton coming up instead of like a Encarnacion or even I guess a JJ Bleday is maybe a wider shout, but Encarnacion for me felt like the obvious one, but Billy Hamilton was the man.
I think the only thing that you can really sort of say as far as why that could be justifiable is that centre field defence. The guys that you just spoken about bringing up instead, they're not going to. They are the corner guys realistically. Bleday's played a bit of centre, but I think it'd be the same situation with Sanchez where you're putting him there out of necessity rather than because he's a good centre fielder. But then you say that, and then you had Hamilton in a corner outfielder spot today.
Exactly, he was playing in left field.
It really doesn't make. It does seem like the GM is making the decisions in one way, and then the lineup's being pieced together in a different way. And I think sometimes you do wonder whether they are sort of communicating accurately as far as what their plans are. But it's I can only get so angry about things like that when we are still winning. I mean, if you, like you said with the lineup was a bit shoddy. Garrett, he's pitched well, don't get me wrong, but there's no depth or there was no perceived depth as far as expectations from him today. You've got a bullpen that's been, a leveraged end of it anyway, being blown through the last couple of days. Everything seemed to be pointing towards, a blown sweep. So to actually, watching the game, and the game sort of pieced together that way as well. It was a close run game. The Marlins weren't scoring, apart from that early run, weren't scoring any runs. So you're thinking this is just going to, this is typical Marlins. They're going to end up losing this game in heartbreaking fashion, as it was. They tried. But no, this series really has been one where it's, from a cliff edge, they've managed to get these wins.
They really have. And the way they've done it has been funny. It's been the whole week, actually. There's been just over a week's worth of action, and multiple times, at least I think 3, maybe 4 now we're up to it today, where there's been big knocks in the 9th or 10th inning that has led to the Marlins winning, which has been great. You're right to call out Braxton Garrett today, mate. He was just sensational. Absolutely sensational. No other way to say it. Career day for Braxton Garrett. At one point I was just sitting there thinking he's going CG today. Like, it just looked obvious that he was going CG. Run into a little bit of trouble in the 8th inning in the end. And they were quite quick with a hook, actually. Didn't get the Sandy Alcantara treatment. It was obviously a 1-0 game, probably then 1-1. So that was the end for Garrett. Zach Pop ended up, oh boy, he created a massive mess. How he got out of that mess, I do not know. The bases were juiced with, 1 out? And somehow he gets out of that. So that was the massive moment that Pop manages to get out. But, offensively, I think the biggest highlight offensively was probably Jess Blaylock over in that condo over the road. That was kind of a main theme of the broadcast. Jess Blaylock going and asking that guy his name. That was the main offensive, that was the offensive production we saw for the Marlins. It was, that story seemed to be going on for 6 innings. It's funny. So, it was what it was. But to win that game in that style off the back of yesterday's, where Pablo had a no-hitter going, then they blew it, then they came back, then it went to extras and they blew it open, which is great to see as well. So, wild moment. I'm going to ask you for your key or favorite moments from the Nat series shortly, because I think there's a few of them. Like, there really was some big knocks for sure. But before we do that, guys, reminder, this episode, it's brought to you by our friends and our good friends over at Built Bar, and it is Coconut Brownie Chunk Puff season. And from the people who invented healthy and tasty comes the latest gift for your taste buds. You've probably tried the amazing Coconut Brownie Chunk Built Bar, but guess what? Your friends at Built have given the Coconut Brownie Chunk the Puffs treatment. Yes, sir, the Puffs are back. That's right. Coconut Brownie Chunk Built Bar flavor you love, in a deliciously chewy marshmallowy covered in 100% real chocolate. It's like fluffy cloud of coconut brownie goodness. But don't stop drooling and listen. They're good for you. Low calorie, low sugar, high protein, and all delicious. Sounds amazing. If you're liking what you're hearing, get yourselves over to Built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15 with LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. Reminder, LOCKED15, 15% off your order at Built.com. All right then, Shaun, give it to me then. There's multiple real real high leverage moments in this series. What was the one that got your juices flowing the most of everything over this weekend?
Well, I'm going to go somewhere completely different, and I'm going to talk about the fact that we just swept the team. As dismissively as you want to talk about the Nationals as you want to, without Chisholm and without Sandy.
Mm-hmm.
These are the guys that have carried us for so long, and now we've got Anderson back, with the home run. We've got Wendell back with some key knocks. This is a team that now is completely different to the team that we saw previously. We're starting to sort of feed back into it. We've got guys like Castano, we've got guys like Garrett, who are now starting to really step up. And yes, you could look at some of the individual moments and the way that the series has gone. But for me, I'm already projecting forwards because, yes, a 4-0 sweep of any team is always difficult. But that's kind of where we were as far as wanting from the Marlins. You've got to beat the teams like the Nationals, and they have done. But now we've got to look forward, and we've got to look forward to the fact that we're playing two, tough teams. The Angels, as bad as their record is, the guys that we're going to be playing, there's almost that sort of like air of invincibility when you look at guys like Trout and Ohtani, and then you've got the Mets, which is going to be a huge series. So I don't want to get too high on whipping on the Nationals, even though this should be a day for positivity. It is a day for positivity. We're talking now, as we go into July, about a Marlins team that is still in the hunt. But now is the time that we've really got to look forward to playing the tougher teams and actually getting some wins from these teams.
Yeah, no doubt. It's one of the key, I would say, aftermaths of yesterday's game. Craig Mish kind of putting it out there and starting a bit of a Twitter conversation around the fact that the Marlins this year in the NL have not beaten one team in a series that were above 500 at that point. It's the key bit that they weren't above 500 at that point. People go, hey, we beat the Braves and beat the Phils, or we beat the Astros recently. Astros in the AL. When the Phillies and Braves series were taken, neither of those teams are above 500. The Marlins have not won a series against a team in the NL that was sitting above 500. I think that is very telling thus far, and it is a narrative. The Marlins need to find a way to win those games and those series, no doubt. However, every win is equal, in my opinion. That's the other thing to call out. That every win is equal. I'd love to see how many teams have swept the Nats 4-0 on the road this season, or even swept them 3-0 on the road. I reckon it doesn't happen as often as maybe you think. So I'm with you, mate. This series for me was just the Marlins executed. They got it done. No one cares. You don't have to be playing vintage games, winning 10-0 every game on the road. It's just, you don't have to. You just got to go in. You got to do your business. You got to win your games. No Jazz, no Sandy. I mean, that's impressive. It doesn't matter who's there. And then you got to look at the lineups that the Marlins are throwing out there, and they still managed to sweep them. And this is the other thing, too, I got to call out. This isn't post-deadline Nats. This isn't the post-deadline. This isn't the stripped-down parts where everyone's gone. Josh Bell's one of the best hitters in the NL right now. Soto's one of the best hitters in the game. Appreciate you missed today's game. He should have rested anyway. Nelly Cruz, one of the best hitters all time. They've got pieces than us. They've got, maybe in theory, more pumped to the lineup than the Marlins do. So I'm with you, brother, on this one. I think it's a stunning 4-game road sweep at the back end of a 2-city road trip. And the way they did it with those big knocks. Jesus Sanchez. I just want to go back to yesterday, mate, because oh my days. I mean, the heat was on. Avi Garcia. Let's go the at-bat before, because Avi Garcia was the guy who was like the first bit of heat was on 2 outs, thinking, here we go again. Bit of Cardinals vibe. He draws a walk and is absolutely hyped for a walk like you've never seen, which is great to see. Then he goes back and gives Sanchez the full scouting report. I believe Rainey's maybe tipping pitches, his fastball or something with a double toe tap or something. I don't know. I didn't spot it, but listen, I was just too busy looking at Twitter, probably, knowing me. But anyway, but then for Jesus Sanchez to then deliver that bomb in the way he did was just an absolutely stunning moment. And then for Bryan De La Cruz today to back it up with another huge bomb, hit the foul pole, 410 feet or whatever. So some big knocks coming up from guys that have not been, they haven't been hitting, they've not been on all cylinders, these guys. You can't get away from it. Jesus, he hits big bombs. When he catches them, they go. Bryan De La Cruz, it's been a bit of a struggle for him, but I think it's massive. So you've now had a Jesus Sanchez big moment. You've had a Bryan De La Cruz big moment. You've had a Nick Fortes moment. You've had an Avi Garcia moment. All four of these guys all delivering big knocks in big spots. And for me, that's the thing. Collectively, these guys are in their minds going, we're always in it. We've always got the chance to get the big stick out there and do some damage in the ninth. And it's showing out. So I'm loving what I'm seeing. What about you?
Yeah, I'm thinking you're right. I think the thing that we've been talking about all year about this team is obviously the pitching keeps the team in it at all times. There's no real time where the Marlins are getting blown out of, the pitching's getting blown up. And that sort of is, if you look at the run differential, which is something that we're all sort of still, hyping on, this team, they've got a positive run differential, they're a good team, they just need a bit of luck. That comes from the fact that they just don't give up a lot of runs. They also don't score many runs. But when the team can score runs and the pitching keeps them in it, this is where we are. The pitching's always, seemingly, is always going to be there for them. And it is about getting that key knock here and there. And sometimes it's going to be late like it has been recently. But, hopefully we can, get a couple of runs early. Like they had opportunities today, but they could only get that one run across the board. That the pitching's always going to keep them close. These key hits, and it doesn't need to be, they don't need to score 8, 9, 10 runs every game to get wins. 4, 5, 6 is what's currently winning games for them. And, those key hits are coming from guys, like you said, that we just weren't expecting from recently. Sanchez has been a bit cold. De La Cruz has been a bit cold. Fortes is, he's a backup catcher, so he's only getting sort of periodic playing time. But this series was a lot of fun in the sense of that those key hits were getting hit.
I think there's any connection here that Joey Wendell returns, and next thing is clutch hitting starts to happen. And I mean, Joey Wendell is exactly the type of player like these wins. If I could put a game up that describes a player, Joey Wendell didn't even play today. But they feel like Joey Wendell games, you know what I mean? And even today, when he came up and did pinch hit, he didn't start, pinch hit. It had been, a bit of a rough stretch for all the hitters. No one getting any hard contact. Wendell steps up there and absolutely laces one into the outfield. It didn't come down for a hit. It was a fly out in the end, or a line out. Sorry, but professional hitter. But for me, it's these scrappy wins and Joey Wendell rejoining the roster. I feel like there's a connection there somehow. What about you?
I mean, like you said, he's a professional hitter. He's a professional player. Every game that he's in, you either see at-bats or you see defensive plays where you're thinking, I feel comfortable. You don't feel like he's ever going to get fooled, either at the plate or in the field. He is just a complete player. And that's partly skill, but that's mostly mentality, I think.
Yeah.
It is a case of he's a very strong-minded baseball player and he's incredibly professional. And sometimes that's hyperbole, but I do genuinely think this is, we talked all previous years about Dickerson, and that was what we were told and that's what we were sold on.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever quite got that from him, but with Wendell, that's kind of, he is delivering on that aspect.
Yeah, for sure. There was a nice play as well, where big play actually, where it rolled into his glove in second base, and I think he had to transfer it from his glove. It kind of flipped it out to Miggy, and they roll a double play. Boy, oh boy, the double plays today, the whole of the series. I mean, God, it felt like the Marlins of a few years ago, and there must be just a hallmark of rebuilding teams, just rolling double plays consistently. But yeah, the Nats were really burned by the double play ball, no doubt. A few other things for us to get into, mate, before we wrap up. It's a relatively breezy episode because, as I mentioned, I am blowing. However, final reminder, this episode is brought to you by betonline.net, and it's your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's NHL playoffs and Major League Baseball. And it's your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. Couldn't even read for a second. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcast news this season. And it's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MMA, boxing, and golf. They've got everything. Head to the website today. Use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay, so Wendell's back in the mix. The Marlins have taken a turn. Big hits from big dudes. Bullpen's kind of finding its way together, which is nice to see. Rotation's kind of clicking now. Braxton Garrett, career day. Castano, not quite as sharp as him, but he's had some real nice ones, in leading up to that. Feels like things are coming together. Are the Marlins in this? Are they actually in it? Do you feel like they're actually in this wild card hunt? Because I'm going to put it out there right now. I think they are.
I do think they are. I think previous episodes I've talked about the idea that I'm not quite out yet, and I'm still hopeful, and I still think that this team has had some bad luck, and I think that's where we are. I think we are. I mean, they could go and lose the next 6 straight, and then we'll all be, back onto selling mode. But I do think that this team still have the holes that we've talked about for, it feels like forever now. And I think to a certain degree, the team are almost sort of just those few holes away. And I don't think we're going to see a situation where we're trading multiple pieces and trying to fit together a team with rentals. I do still think that there's a smart way to do this. You don't need to get a 2-month rental. There are going to be people out there that are trading that you can get a couple of years of control, whether that be a reliever. Do the Marlins go massive and trade for a centre fielder piece now, like a Laureano? I don't know. But, I mean, it would certainly be interesting. I think we're still a few weeks away, not only from the deadline, obviously, but also from having to make that decision. I think we keep talking about the next series being massive, or the next week being massive, but that's where we are. Each week is getting more and more ramped up and more important. And I think, as it stands, a couple of games under 500, a good couple of weeks against tough teams. If we can continue to stay there, or maybe even creep a few games closer to 500, and then I start to think that the Marlins could make some moves that are focusing on trying to get to the playoffs this year.
Yeah. I said I think they could go 18-10 in July. I truly believe that. And I mean, after having a 4-game sweep to get things rolling, then, I mean, they're on pace for that. They're actually on pace for more than that. They're on pace for 28-0 in July, which would really put the cat amongst the pigeons. But, the Mets series is big. It'd be great to just, get a dub there against. And we played the Mets tough recently as well. We've actually played them tough. If you can keep Lindor quiet, then the Marlins have got a chance for sure. Because Lindor's just been killing us all year. Pete Alonso too, in parts. But there's not a huge separation there. It felt like it at times in 1 or 2 of the games that I think kind of got a little bit lopsided early, and then the bullpens were managed effectively. But yeah, the Marlins are right back in it. They're 2 games under 500 at the 4th of July. I can't remember whenever that was. I think that's been said since I followed the team, to be honest with you. So, we're in uncharted territory here, guys, and we should absolutely embrace it. Some other news, though, that's dropping in. Max Meyer made his had a longer stint yesterday anyway. He didn't make his return, but going 6 innings yesterday in 61 pitches. And it was a funny clip because the opposing team's broadcast were calling the game, and they were disappointed that Max Meyer was pulled from the game. They were just enjoying watching him so much. Eli spoke about it today. Max Meyer's ready. It's time to get him in the mix. He's at 60, 70, 80 pitches perhaps. But Braxton Garrett delivered a career day there. How do you see them actually playing this Max Meyer situation? Because it feels a little bit deja vu, like it did a few months back, where it's like, you got to bring Max up, and then they couldn't quite pull the trigger on it. So where's your head at now? Now we're in July, into July, sorry.
It's interesting because obviously he's still, these aren't quite rehab starts now, but they are essentially rehab starts from the injury. And I saw 6 innings today, and I thought, right, he's ready, he's done. Let's bring him up. And then once you get into it and you realise, yes, 61 pitches. Now, he was motoring through, and obviously he's still too good for that level. He's far too good. Yeah. He is ready to pitch at the major leagues, but I would have liked to have seen 70, 75, 80 pitches in that start. And the fact that they decided to pull him when he was motoring through 6 at 61 pitches tells me that they're not quite ready to extend him that far. So he needs at least another start, I would say, to get to those 70, 75, 80 pitches. And the way that the Marlins are playing it at the moment, do they give him that in his next start? Maybe not. I think they're probably looking at another 2 starts. Now, things can occur that will force their hand You're right. I think at the moment there's not a need for a guy in the rotation. I think Castano is probably the one that's going to be the casualty, whether or not that
Yeah.
means he goes down or whether that means he moves into the pen as a long man. At the moment the Marlins, are struggling. I think they're going to struggle in the next couple of days with the bullpen, just the way that the arms have been used.
Yeah, me too.
Sandy goes tomorrow. Could Sandy give them all another day off? Wouldn't that be fantastic?
Yeah.
I don't think we can ask or expect him to go 9, but 7 innings with a good lead, and then you can throw out one of the lower end guys in the bullpen rather than continue to task what is, in my opinion, a very blown through high leverage bullpen at the moment. You've got Scott and Bass and O'Kurt who've pitched, obviously not today, but 3 games in a row prior to that. So if any of them pitch tomorrow, they've still pitched 4 times in 5 games. That's
Yeah.
a lot.
It is.
And so I think at the moment we do need to sort of step back and realise at the moment we do need to sort of take some care with the bullpen.
Yeah, I'm with you, mate. It's the one area of concern I've got heading into this series. The fact that, it's something that's been called out. There isn't any off days now, really, up until the All-Star break. So it's full gas in a part of the schedule where you're likely to be playing a lot of close games, perhaps, against teams that you're going to be leading and you're going to be leaning on. So it's going to be interesting. Yacobonis has stepped up today. Floro's had a couple of saves, on back-to-back days there as well. So, there's more guys back there that are starting to get the kind of trust level. But to your point, though, I do think on Max Meyer in general, I'm intrigued to see, do the Marlins just get aggressive with it? It's all well and good us sitting there going, well, Dan Castano, he's had a couple of nice starts and whatever. And you go, okay. And Braxton Garrett had a really nice start against the Nats on an 11 o'clock 4th of July game where they were swinging and everything. I'd be worried that would cloud the judgment. When we strip it away, Max Meyer should be in the rotation, if healthy, above both of those two guys, in my opinion. And Dan Castano, for me, is the perfect guy to flex into that kind of long man spot. I think so anyway. I think he could do that job well. He seems like he could do any role pretty well, Dan Castano, and he's got that right mentality for it. So I could definitely see that happening. It feels like since Poteet's been missing, we've struggled for that role, and actually we've ended up like the long man spot. The ERA is probably like being ballooned, and because Head's been blown up, and Nance has been blown up, and the Marlins do need someone back there for because let's be honest, like Trevor Rogers can't seem to get past 5 innings most times. Max Meyer's not going to have 110, pitch limit if he's up. So he's going to maybe, 6 max maybe at the major league level. So they're going to need a couple of long guys. So I'm with you on that. I could see a nice little Castano shuffle. We'll wait and see if that happens. I'm just very intrigued to see what they do. I was very interested the way they went with Billy Hamilton as that move. And I get it. It's like, hey, we don't want just a dude sat on the bench. But the thing is, you've got so many guys that are all coming back. They're cycling guys. They're cycling Wendell. They're cycling BA. Miggy's banged up. Avi Garcia's banged up. Everyone's banged up. So it's not like you've just got a fully healthy roster and you've got, hey, you're the 13th guy, maybe a defensive replacement Mag Sierra special. No, you're going to have to play. And that's why it shocked me, the fact they went Billy Hamilton up, no Encarnacion, and then left ourselves today with Jacob Stallings in the DH spot. Like it felt, I just wasn't on board with that. There's, there must be method to the madness, but I didn't fully see it. And I'm not going to end it on that. I can't, because they've won 4 games on the road. I can't. There's no negative thoughts here. What a series win for the Fish, no doubt. Look ahead to this Angels series, mate, as well, because my good friend Nick is on the show tomorrow, pumping up this series. So Nick of LA Angels UK is joining me and us on the show to preview this one. But we've got Sandy going against Thor, giving me 2019 throwbacks. And then we've got Otani going on Wednesday as well. I think against Trevor, right? So, no, that's two real juicy matchups. The Angels, though, I was looking, they've got an interim manager going at the moment. I think that's the current role because of suspensions due to that fight the other week. Monte Harrison's in the lineup most days. The Angels look to be, they're in free fall right now. So that, it's a winnable series for the Fish, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's crazy to think that when you've got two generational talents in a team,
Mm,
that you look at and you, as you're right, they've got a manager that is at the moment in charge that it has no right to be there at the moment.
no,
You've got Monte Harrison as a starting outfielder for them. What are the Angels doing? I mean, they are literally wasting the talent of two guys that just don't come around very often,
I know.
and below 500, worse record than the Marlins. It's crazy. Now I'm going to really enjoy watching the games. I watch mostly Marlins. Obviously, I don't watch much else baseball, but every now and then I do get a tinge of I should be watching Otani more because
Mm.
he's just such a talent. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the Marlins play the Angels, and I think anybody anywhere near Miami should be heading down and watching them live because these guys really are special.
Yeah, no doubt it is. It's a really, Otani is a generational talent, as is Mike Trout, no doubt. And to get Otani pitching, not good for the fish, but good for the fans. Let's call it that. Let's just leave it at that. That it is. It's good for the fans to get a look at him. And like you, I realized last season. I think I've shared this before on this pod, maybe another one. There was a point last season where I realized I'd never watched an Otani at bat live ever. I'd never watched one because the West Coast games are so tough to follow, and I'm just never up at those hours. And the Marlins don't play the Angels very often, so I realized I hadn't watched one, and they were playing a UK friendly game. Can't remember who against, but Nick Wright texted me and went, "Pete, get on the Angels now and watch Otani." I think he hit a home run his first at bat as well, straight after that. So yeah, let's. It's going to be a fun series, no doubt, and a big test for the Fish because they're in a different spot to the Nats in some ways. They've got some big superstars and they're scuttling heavily. But earlier on in the year, these boys were absolutely electric. They felt like they could make some noise this year, and they're mentally is the question: have they gone? Is that where the Angels are up to now? Have they just is their head shot now, and they're just fully they see this year as a wash? Wait and see, and then into the Mets series, which should be fun. Right, that is us out of here on a Monday edition. A 30-minute, relatively breezy for me and Shaun. I have plowed through that. I am not feeling good, so I may collapse in a second. But nevertheless, thank you for joining me. Thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. And Shaun, thank you so much for joining me. Of course, on a Monday, brother. It seems like it's the regular spot, the UK GOAT spot. So I appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow, of course, guys. Tuesday episode. Nick Wright joining me from LA Angels UK. In the meantime, enjoy the fireworks, enjoy the beers, enjoy whatever else it is you do on the 4th of July. And be back tomorrow.